Hello and welcome. My name is Stephanie Duran with CalFresh Outreach at CDSS. I will be the moderator for today's webinar. This training webinar will demonstrate how to use the Your Benefits Now portal. I'm going to go over a few logistics before we get started. Our webinar will be approximately 1 hour long. This webinar will be held in listen-only mode. You may connect with your audio in one of two ways, either over the telephone or through your computer. You should see this option under Audio on the webinar control panel. Please be aware that if you wish to speak and ask questions during the Q&A session of the webinar, you must connect with a USB mic and headset or by phone. Connecting with only headphones will not allow you to speak and ask questions. If you do not have a USB mic, you must connect by the phone in order to listen and ask questions. Keep in mind that if you are connected by phone and choose to connect via mic and speakers, you will be automatically disconnected from the telephone line. If you'd like to ask a question, please type your question into the question box and press send. Questions submitted via the questions box will either be answered back to you electronically, or the moderator will ask the presenter your question. At the end of the presentation, we will have an open Q&A time to ask your questions by phone or headset. To ask a question during this open session, please select the hand button, which is on the little sidebar on the left of the control panel. Please take a moment right now to locate the hand button, and if you found it, please click the hand. Fantastic. Now when you have raised your hand to ask a question during the Q&A time, we will unmute your line and you will be asked to present your question. You can all put your hands down now. This webinar will be recorded. If you are not comfortable with having your voice recorded, you may opt to enter your question through the question box and it will remain anonymous. Now, I'd like to turn it over to Sergio Andrade, and our presenter for today.
Good morning, this is Sergio Andrade from DPSS. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, we're able to see your screen just fine.
Okay, the screen I'm currently on is the Your Benefits Now website, and what this site allows you to do is apply for benefits online. So I'm going to walk you through the steps on how to log in and how to start an application. So on the site, there's a click here to apply for benefits, and this is a hyperlink that's going to take you in to log in. So once you click that button, this is the community-based organization dashboard, and what the department did is create a channel for applications to be submitted en masse. Now this allows you to control all the applications that have been started and saved, submitted, and it also gives you a status if the application is pending, is it approved or is it denied. So on this page here, there's two tabs. The application status tab shows all the applications that belong to that specific user, and the links down below are actual links that will show you which application was submitted and in a waiting for clearance state. So here we have a applicant's name by the name of Test Fung. The application was started on 10/10/2014, and it's still in the process to be assigned to a worker. So now this is our test environment, so this is all just dummy data. So on this site here, the way you start an application is you hit the Start Application button. So as soon as you hit that, it's going to tell you that you're going to get started. And this is just information that the normal applicants, not so much our community-based and faith-based organization or our partners, really go through, but first-time clients, this is just a lot of FYIs as to what's on the site and how it works. So as I'm navigating through the site, these are just helpful tips on what the site looks like. The tabs represent the type of questions that will be asked. There's a percentage bar that indicates for the user where along the process they are. The next and back button tell you how to move forward on the application or actually move back. So it's just helpful tips for that user. So I'll hit the next button. And the first page we have is the program page. And this is going to ask that user what they're applying for. Is it CalFresh? Is it CalWorks? Is it Medi-Cal? So for the purposes of this demo, we'll select CalFresh. As you can see, depending on the question that's asked, will really depend on what additional or detailed questions will appear. So if it wasn't CalFresh, that additional data would not appear. So we'll select CalFresh and we'll hit the next button. This pertains, and this is just additional information that pertains to CalFresh only applications. If the user would have selected Medi-Cal or CalWorks, this page would not appear. So the website's dynamic in the sense to display questions that are only asked for the specific program that's being requested. So we'll select Next. And this is the beginning of the application. Here it's going to ask a bunch of different questions. What's your first name? What's your last name? What's your address, your zip code, your telephone, on and on. So we'll just create a dummy application for now. We'll name it Mickey Mouse. It's going to ask, are you homeless or not? So for this test, we'll put no, we'll enter an address. So it's pretty much question and answer. If you see the red asterisk, that means that you must answer these questions. There's very few questions on the site itself that are mandatory, but the ones in red are absolutely mandatory, and you cannot submit your application without these questions being completed.
Unmuted.
We'll enter a telephone number.
Muted.
And if the applicant has a daytime and a cell phone, you'd obviously enter whatever information you can provide to the department. Now, the more information, obviously, the quicker and easier your application is going to be processed. So here we'll just select the next button. And what happens here is we go through GIS, which means that based on the application, based on the address that's entered, we're going back and we're searching to see if we find and consider that a valid address. Since this is a dummy address, it's giving us a message that's saying address not found. So I will manually check it and then hit the next button. If there was an address found, we would display it here on the possible matches. Now, as you can see, it's just additional information. What type of language do you speak? Is it English, Spanish? And there's a long listing of different languages on here. So we'll select English. Is anyone pregnant? As you can see on the site,
Unmuted.
the questions expand depending on the way the question's answered. Here we'll put female, date of birth. As you can see with the date entries, there's a calendar that appears for the user to easily select the actual date. So we'll put 1973, April, and then we'll select the date. And once all the questions are completed, you obviously select the next button. And it's I guess it didn't allow me to go past this screen because I didn't enter a social security number, although I had answered the question. And here you have to enter your social security number twice just to ensure that you're typing in the correct social security number. It's strange. For some reason, it's not letting me get past this screen. Let me hit the back button. So here, additional questions will pop up. Where were you born? What's your citizenship status information, alien number, sponsorship, on and on. The application layout is pretty consistent in the sense where there's certain values. For instance, a different country, there's a drop-down that will appear that will let the user select the appropriate value. If there's a date range that needs to be entered, a calendar will appear. We'll leave all this information blank. So, as you can see, we've entered a lot of the individual demographic data for the applicant. Now it queued us to the next phase, or to the next tab, where now it's going to collect as much information as you can for that household. And here it's asking, is there anybody else in your house, in your home? Yes or no. So for the purpose of this demo, we'll select no. As you can see, it quickly moved us on to the next tab. There's no additional information or people in that household, so it's just going to queue you through every one of these different tabs. So we'll select no for all of these. As you can see, now we're in the income tab. So we're slowly getting across this entire application. We're at 45% now. And what's going to happen here is we're asking questions pertaining to income. So if the answer is yes, it's going to queue up additional set of questions. So we'll enter yes for the first one and no for everything else. So based on that selected question, now it's going to ask us what type of income do we have. So we'll select the owner of the income, which is Mickey Mouse, and we'll say it's workers' compensation. As you can see, the screen expanded. It's going to ask us the received amount. So we'll put $50. What the frequency is, we'll say weekly, and the date received. We'll say December 30th. There's additional income, you enter it here. If there's not, you move on. Now it's asking, this screen is pretty much a summary of the income that was collected. So from here you're able to validate the type of information that you entered onto this application. Here we say Mickey Mouse. Source of income is from workers' compensation. How much? $50. How often? Weekly. Now here we have the option to remove all the information, re-enter it, or if the dollar amount or the information is incorrect and you have to change it, you simply hit the edit button and you can go back and make your changes. So we changed the income from $50 to now $500, and that's twice a month. Takes you back to the summary, once again, for you to validate the data before moving on. As you can see, we're out of the income tab. Now we're going into expenses. So we'll hit the next button. Now we're in the property. Say yes for this question, no for everything else. Here again, for life estate property, I'll select the owner. If there were additional household members, they would appear right next to this one applicant. So if there's a family of 4, let's say, we would show all the household members here for the user to select the individual that has the life estate property. So we'll say liquid assets, we'll give it a dollar amount of $980. Is it available? We'll put yes. And you just complete whatever information that you can. Now, one very important thing I would like to mention is if an applicant does come in, and let's just say they're homeless, they have no income, they have no resources, they have no household members, it's a pretty cut and dry application. We do have to collect those mandatory fields, which are very small, and if we know right off of the bat that there is no household members, there is no job, there is no school, there is no income, expenses, property, we don't have to queue through all these different tabs by selecting the next button. Once the mandatory fields are completed, you can go directly to the send button, and it'll take you, it'll bypass all these additional tabs and take you to the very end send applications tab. So this is a quick workaround to bypass a lot of the questions that obviously don't pertain to that specific applicant. So what I'll do is I'll show you guys how that works. I'll hit the next button. It's going to show me a summary of the life estate information that I did collect. Now from here I'm going to go to the send application. It's going to pop-up will appear. It'll tell me, are you sure you want to submit? And I'll select the OK button. This screen here, as you can see, we've bypassed the other tab. We went straight to the send application tab. The percentage bar is now at 100%. And this screen appears. Would you like to add? The purpose of this screen is we know that the amount of data that was entered on this application is very limited. Now, for our case carrying workers and for the department, all we pretty much have is a name. We have a home telephone number, but the applicant failed to include their social security number. They failed to enter their birth date, daytime phone, cell phone, email address. None of that information is included. So we want to alert the user that the amount of critical information for the department to contact that applicant is very limited. So the more information obviously the department has, the easier it will be to contact that applicant at a later time. So here we can enter a birth date and then hit the next button. So the screen's telling us the home address, the name, the contact telephone number. We'll hit the next button. Now this page is telling us that our application is ready for submission. Now what this page does is it lists, based on the address that we've entered, where this application is going to. Based on the address that was entered, the system knows where to push that application to. So I entered a zip code of 90025. It knows that it needs to go to the Rancho Park office, which is more or less around the same area as that zip code that I entered. So here I select the next button. And this is a very important page. This is where the site itself allows a user to upload documents. Somebody applies for benefits, maybe they fail to enter on all the fields, all their income and their banking information, but they choose to upload all that documentation. So what the user can do is, again, select the owner of the document. Under document type, the user has to select what type of document they're going to upload. So we'll say income verification. Hit the browse button, and that's going to take you to your local drive for you to select the file. So I'll select income verification, select the open button, and that's going to upload that verification. Then I select the next button. Just like the site, you get a summary page. This is for you to check to make sure that what you uploaded is correct. So here we have the option to view that income document. So once I select it, a PDF image is going to appear, and it's going to show you what I just uploaded. So this is income verification. This is for a cow here's test. This is something else that we did. Let's scroll down a little bit, and I select the OK button to close it out. For whatever reason, if I did select the wrong file, I can hit the button that says delete, and it'll remove it. I could go back and do the same process again. So here we've validated that I've uploaded my income verification. If I want to upload additional documentation, I hit the yes button. If I'm 100% complete, I move on and hit the next button. So this is the final page. Here's where the applicant is going to read through this information, and at the very end, electronically sign their application. So we'll sign it and submit. Once the application is submitted, there will be a congratulations page. If for whatever reason the application is not successfully submitted, there will be an error message. There will be an alert for that user saying something went wrong, and they will not see this congratulations page. So on the congratulations page, what the user is able to see is their application number. This is what our case management system displays. It alerts the applicant where their application went to. So in this case, it went to the Rancho Park office. It gives them the address and the telephone number. This print confirmation button allows the client to actually print this entire page, which most importantly displays their application number. The view summary button gives a quick outline of all the information that was entered on that YBN application. So here we have their application number, the office that the application went to, the programs that they're applying for. Anything that was entered will appear on this outline. And if they choose to, they can print a copy of that. The View Print Application button is the official state SAWS 2+. So this is a 28-page application, and what we do is pre-populate all the data that was entered online. So let me scroll down so you guys can see that. So here's the applicant's information. Here's the applicant's name, their home address, the county, the zip code, telephone number, what they're applying for. So it's a pretty lengthy application, but we do, here's the signature, we do capture all the data and push it over to this official application. So I'm back to the congratulations page. Down here at the bottom, verification documents, it kind of alerts the user. The most requested verification documentation that is needed for the application. But that's pretty much it. This is the end of the application process. If I go to the My Applications link, what that's going to do, it's going to take me back to the dashboard. This is right back where we started. And it's going to track everything that I've submitted. If I were to save that application under this January row, it would show it right here. It would show 1. So there is instances where an application does come in, the application is started, but the applicant may not have all their verification documents. One of two things that can be done. The YBN application could be submitted without the documentation, or that applicant can simply say, you know, give me an hour, give me 2 hours. I'll bring all those supporting documents so it could be attached to my application. So that community partner would just save it. When they get back and provide the documentation, whether it's 10 minutes later, 5 minutes later, 2 minutes, a month later, all that information is stored and they don't have to start the entire application all over again. So for the month of January, there's 3 applications that are waiting for clearance. If I select that link, I should see Mickey Mouse. So here it shows that the application was submitted. The department now has it. Here's my application number, applicant's name, the date of birth. The application was started and submitted January 9, 2015. And it also shows me the district for which it went to. One thing we didn't cover on this dashboard is the saved applications. So what this tab does is, the way these accounts are created is they're created and grouped by organization. So if one organization has a total of 5 different users, what we're able to do here is that all the saved applications for that group or for that agency will be displayed here. So in the event that an applicant does come in to the office, we start the application, they say, I can't provide my documentation till tomorrow. For whatever reason, the person that initiated the application is not there at that office. Anybody within that agency could go into the Saved Applications tab, identify the applicant by selecting the Select button, and take ownership of that specific application. So they hit the Work On button, and it should take them to that application. And I think that's pretty much it. Stephanie, would you like me to pass this over to you now?
Sergio, I'm going to kind of moderate the question and answer session. This is Jeff Lassiter at the Department of Social Services in Sacramento, and I want to first of all thank you, Sergio, for doing this presentation. And this is the time when everyone gets to exercise the I raised my hand button, and I will get to people in the order which they raise their hands. Just as a reminder, if you are not on the telephone and just using a Normal headset and not a USB headset, you may not be able to speak. If I call in your name and we don't hear anything, then please type your question into the question box and we will get to the questions by way of the question box. There was one question that came in from Stephanie, another Stephanie, and she had a question about the marriage portion of the application. She said that I noticed that when he clicked yes on whether the applicant is pregnant, a new required question appeared asking whether a presumptive eligibility card was received. Will you explain what this is and why it is required?
Yeah, let's go to that question. So what I'm doing here is I'm just starting a brand new application just to go to that specific question. So the question is here, under the Your Informations page. Is anyone pregnant? So if I select yes, the question comes up, did she have a presumptive eligibility card? So the question is, why is this mandatory? Jeff?
Yes.
You know, that's more of a policy question. I honestly couldn't tell you why it's mandatory, but I can definitely try to follow up and get an answer to that.
Fair enough. All right, we have a question from Alexandra, and I'm going to open your mic, Alexandra. So go ahead, Alexandra, ask your question. Sounds like she is not able to ask it verbally, but she did type it in. Alexandra says, hi. We learned through the grapevine that Leader will be joining See for Yourself counties sometime in the future. Is that the case? And if it is, how will both systems be integrated?
Well, Leader is being replaced. We are in the works of developing what's called LRS. It's a Leader replacement system. And we're in the process, and this is going to be a pretty lengthy process, on developing this new case management system. Will they all be combined? Possibly in the near future, but right now we're just in the works of replacing Leader.
And that, too, is kind of a complicated question and fairly technical, but we're still, what, at least 2 years away from that happening?
That's correct.
Okay. Great. Our next question comes from Carmen, and she doesn't appear to be on the phone or on a speaker, but she's typed her question in. Carmen asks, is there a different portal for clients and community agencies? And how do we register as a community agency?
Actually, it's really the same portal. The only difference for our community partners is that unique user ID and password. So as we saw the dashboard, this dashboard here is a separate page that the general public doesn't see unless they have that unique username and password. So general public logging in to apply for benefits will not see this. In order to become a partner, I think the agency would need to reach out to DPSS to try to establish an account. And I think what we could do is we could probably provide that contact information, Jeff, and maybe you can push it out to whoever the requester is.
Okay, that would be great. And I have a kind of follow-up question on that, Sergio, and that would be, when you had the signature page up and you clicked on Mickey Mouse and typed in Mickey Mouse's name, I also noted that there was a radio button there for the CBO applicant assister to type in their name, and it looked like there was going to be a drop-down list that appeared. Is there any way that you can go back to that page?
Sure, I'll go to that page now.
Okay.
One thing I did not cover on this particular application, what I did select is I selected I was homeless just to get to the specific pregnancy screen. But what I did not cover previously is in the event that someone's homeless, that applicant, if they're applying for CalFresh, would select the district office manually to manually route that specific application to the selected district office. It just came up, so I thought I'd share that with you guys. But let me get to the signature page. Here we are. So down here at the bottom, under the signature of applicant or authorized rep, or is this the one you're referring to, Jeff?
Yes, I would think that if someone's being assisted, then you'd have to have both signatures on the authorization page.
So initially when YBN was first developed, since we didn't have this YBN dashboard, that's a tracking tool, what the partners were doing is they're signing, and we'll put the applicant's name, and then they would enter their information. And what we had was a drop-down of a lot of our community-based and faith-based organizations for them to select the specific agency that was assisting with that particular application. So there's quite a few on here. Obviously not all of them are there, but there are some agencies listed on here.
Now, what if the CBO's name is not on that drop-down list? Is there a way to add a new name to that list?
Yes, there is. We can talk offline on that, but it's just a request, and we can see if we can add that agency to this drop-down. What we did is there's hundreds of unique users currently using YBN that are part of this, that have a partnership with DPSS. And what we did is instead of having that user select their agency, it really doesn't mean anything to this specific agency, and we'll use Sunshine Daycare, right? If I'm a worker from Sunshine Daycare and I select that agency and I submit, well, there's nothing really that I can go back and see how many applications I submitted. So that was the reason for developing that dashboard. And now all the agencies that have that unique username and password don't necessarily need to enter this information here, because that dashboard captures every single application that they've submitted. So they no longer use this information.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that if they have their CBO ID and password and they log in as the assister, that even if they miss this portion, the program's still going to be able to track their activity in your benefits now.
That's correct. So the first application that I submitted, the Mickey Mouse application, I'm not going to submit this particular one, but I will go back to the dashboard itself. And if you recall, I did not enter and I did not select a agency. So when I select the applications I submitted in the month of January, that Mickey Mouse application is there. So the system does store it regardless of whether or not you enter that agency name on that signature page.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. All right, I'm going to return to the questions again. Carmen has another question. Her question is this process open for LA County? And is there a benefits portal that serves that several counties in Southern California cannot use? I'm not quite sure. Carmen, can you give us some further clarification on that? Let me. There you are. Okay. Go ahead, Carmen.
Yeah, Catholic Charities of California gave us some links to all of its agencies that are involved in CalFresh. And one of these benefits portals was available to many counties in Northern and Central California, but not a lot in Southern California. So can our staff here in Catholic Charities of Los Angeles, which includes 3 counties, can they use this to track, let's say, the benefits? Who's getting, since we have to submit monthly reports which say not only how many applications for CalFresh were submitted, but how many were approved. That's what we need to know. Can we get that approval? Can we use this portal? Is it available?
In short, the answer is no. What this dashboard does do is it stores all the application not all the application information. It lists and shows the number of applications that were taken in a specific month for that specific agency, for that specific user, and shows the status of what that application's in. So for the month of January, I have a total of 3 submitted applications. None of them are pending, none of them are approved, none of them are denied. So going back to your question, this dashboard does not give access to our case management system in the sense where you may want to see everything. It just shows you for that unique agency itself.
Okay, so but can any like our faith-based organization? It's in Los Angeles County, Santa Barbara County, and Ventura County. Can our staff use this? Will they have? So is it limited to counties or is it statewide? Period.
Yes, YBN is limited to Los Angeles County. So if one of your partners is going on to YBN and trying to submit an application for a resident of Santa Barbara, let's just say, once they enter that address, the system is going to recognize that address and that zip code, and they're going to get an alert saying that it's not, the address entered is not a LA County address. So they won't, they'll be alerted that we're not going to, I'm not sure if it's not going to take that application, but there will be alerted saying it's not an address within LA County. And I think See for Yourself is again, it's a self-service portal for other counties. So I'm not sure if they support.
I think that's the one that we can't use. Yeah.
That would be.
There's several counties in it, I think.
Well, Benefits CalWin does both Ventura and Santa Barbara, and so your staff would have to use the Benefits CalWin for those 2 counties. We're having a webinar on that later this month.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then you had another question on the list there, Carmen?
No, that I didn't.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. I don't see any other hands up, but let me mark Carmen's. So another question from Stephanie is, Putting your organization's information in the signature box at the end doesn't make the assister an authorized rep, does it? I'm concerned because the FNS guidance prohibits people getting SNAP outreach funding from being an authorized rep. Do you need more than that, Sergio, in terms of the question?
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea what the answer to that is.
I have a bit of an idea on that, Stephanie, and I can talk to you offline on that. Is that okay? Great. Are there any other questions? If you have further questions and haven't utilized the question box, then you can go ahead and raise your hand. While we're waiting for other questions to appear, Sergio, I've got another one. And this is just a technical question regarding your portal, but there are concerns that if you know, someone's sitting in a remote office and they lose an internet connection, do they lose all the data that they've entered, or is this data that they're entering saved somehow sequentially as you go from one page to the next?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way the site's designed is that as soon as you get past that initial screen where it has the mandatory questions like your first name, your last name, your address, once you hit the next button acts also as a save button. So in the event that you're 20 minutes into the application, there's a power outage, let's just say, or something happens, when you go back and you log back in, since you've hit that next button on that very first screen, it's saving every single data field that you've entered after that. So in short, the answer is yes, it does save all the information. What it will not do, however, is if you're on a particular page, let's say you're on the income page, and you've entered 99% of the information, and there's a power outage, it's going to save everything from the previous pages, but it will not save the information that you're currently on because you did not hit the next button. Is that clear?
Yeah, go ahead.
So anything after the next button will be saved.
Thank you. So all their work would not be lost in a power outage.
That's correct.
Just anything on the current page that they're working on. Another question, and this is somewhat technical, is on the documents that can be uploaded. If a telephonic signature is required, can a telephonic signature also be uploaded?
Good question. I would need to get back to you on that one.
Okay. And I think that we will have a follow-up Q&A paper that would go along with this, so that if any of you who have been part of this webinar today, if you think of questions after the fact, we would like you to submit that to us here at CDSS in Sacramento. We will form a question and answer sheet, submit that to Sergio, and follow up on any additional questions you may have. And we'll give you instructions on how to submit those questions after the webinar is concluded. So, really, I think that we're running down to the end of our questions. Getting back to, well, I think that's all the questions that I have. Are there any staff here at CDSS that can think of any other questions that have come up in a previous webinar with another one of the consortia? Any relevant questions? All right. I think that's it. Stephanie, here on our end of the system, would you like to conclude our webinar?
Sure thing. All right, I'd like to thank everybody for coming onto this webinar today, and thank you, Sergio, for conducting this. Like Jeff said, questions that were asked today will be documented, uploaded onto our CalFresh Outreach website, so be on the lookout for that, and we appreciate your time. Thank you, have a great day.